you ready?
I am
Where's
now.
your drink from?
3 guesses and the first 2 don't count.
Was it Taco Bell?
Number
I don't
1 doesn't
know.
count.
It doesn't count.
What's your next guess?
Well, I only saw the lid and just a little tiny bit, but it's a clear cup.
Haven't you been in on those memes on the McDonald's Diet Coke?
Got you. No,
Afternoon.
our McDonald's up here have white cups,
Interesting.
unless it's coffee, and then they give it to you in a clear cup.
There's this afternoon Diet Coke thing, and it's a meme, and there's all the science on why McDonald's Diet Coke is the best in the world and so much different. And Jeremy McDonald, who was a director in Oregon years ago, Jeremy's in the ACPE drone video on the bottom of the front page. Jeremy actually did the research for us, and it's how they do the water cooling and the water filtration. It's not the mix. Everybody's like, they get a special mix from Coca-Cola. No,
They do.
it's the chemistry of the water temperature as it hits the mix.
They also do a special formula for the regular Coke, and it's ranked the #1 Coke in all of the land. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Marc.
How are you?
I'm curious about how all of our friends in Washington are, because I saw some weather alerts this morning.
Yeah, it's wet up here. It's super wet up here. I have been in Southern California until yesterday. So I came back. I got to land in an airplane in an atmospheric river, which was super fun. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but there was a whole lot of flooding going on. Lots of water rescues happening up and throughout Washington right now, especially Arlington, that area up north. Lots of flooding from the Skagit River. But I mean, we're managing. The Snoqualmie Falls look amazing.
Oh, I can imagine. Are there any schools in Washington that...
I haven't heard anything. I think through our network of wonderful ACPE people, I'm sure that if anybody needs any help, not that this is going to go out in time, but I do think within this community, we'll hear something. I did see video of the city of Arlington today that their main street was under like 3 feet of water. It just looked insane.
Yeah.
But
and then it's the soil is so saturated already that there's no room.
We had
and
two,
you've got a lot
two
of
of
rain
these
coming in the next
we had
week?
2 atmospheric rivers come through already, and that's just brutal. Out where our house used to be, the road is closed due to a huge landslide. And yet, it's not a lot of fun. And you don't like to leave San Diego for things like that when it's really nice. So,
you have lined up an amazing sponsor friend for us. And she's joining us from where I believe that they have the cold. I think it's like an Arctic blast right now because my youngest kiddo is there as well.
Yeah, hopefully she's not getting too much of that lake effect. I would love to introduce a good friend of mine, Colleen O'Donnell from Insight Financial, a wonderful person and a wonderful company. Insight Financial is sponsoring our episode tonight. So without further ado, Colleen, would you like to share some words?
Sure. So as I was preparing for this and like thinking about how to explain what we do, I was thinking about the challenges that K-12 districts have, right? And so it's a lot of tight budgets. It's a lot of unpredictable funding, really like rapid technology changes, and then just like trying to figure out how to build a sustainable strategy for acquiring technology so that you can support teaching and learning. And that's really what we do, right? We come up with a strategy to help districts build a predictable budget, a life cycle management plan, a strategy to be able to build what they need for supporting teaching and learning. We obviously do lots of devices. That's what you guys need, but there's really just a bigger picture of like how to manage it, how to really make sure that you're refreshing the technology on a plan. It's consistency, right? Like in having a strategy and not just thinking like, I'm just going to make this last forever. It's really just being able to have a thorough plan. And we are so dedicated to education. We've been involved with ACPE for over 10 years, and we are dedicated to helping districts build a full life cycle plan and really a strategy around technology refresh.
And I'll be the first to admit, sorry, I'm just going to jump in.
Okay. No, please do.
I don't know how many times I spoke to Colleen and her partner, Andy, and I just never actually understood what the benefit of leasing would be. And they kept screaming it in my face. I mean, literally like in my face. And it finally clicked because I kept associating it to like leasing a car. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense for a school district to lease a Chromebook like you'd lease a car.
Right.
And it finally kind of sunk in some of the advantages of doing creative leasing. And we've done that a number of times in our district. So I just wanted to
I
share
think
that.
I think there's like lots of things, right? There's the obsolescence risk of that equipment, right? So we know that technology equipment has a short useful life, right? So what leasing does is helps you match the useful life of that equipment to a financing term, like a, kind of a financial instrument, if you will, but then also then you don't have to keep it for 6 or 7 years. You have the ability to be able to refresh the equipment, send it back to us, really rinse and repeat, right? But then all of that time, you're eliminating cybersecurity risk. You're having the right tools. Nobody's getting a window circle of death, right? Everybody is getting the equipment that they need to be able to be effective in the classroom. And supporting your teachers, supporting your students, supporting the staff, really just giving everybody the technology that they need. And I think there's no doubt that technology in the classroom is just not going away, right? There's testing, there's the learning, there's all of the things that need to happen. And all of you in technology are trying to figure out, how do we manage this? How do we meet the technological demands within the really unpredictable budgets? And, the sources of funding really vary so much. So really what we try to do is eliminate the spikes of spending, build a plan, have a really predictable budget, and then the ability to be able to say, okay, we need to do something different, or we need to refresh this, or we need to limit our cybersecurity risk. All of those things are things that we build into our plan.
I will also say from a tech director, CIO, CTO, budgetary authority position, this is what I liked. And this is probably not what Colleen, Andy, or Talon would ever come lead with. A great example is that we leased our Chromebooks. We have our Chromebooks on a 4-year cycle. We buy a fourth of our Chromebooks every single year. So we're always refreshing a fourth of our Chromebooks at any given time. But that means that every 5 years, basically, we are surplusing 2,500 Chromebooks. Surplus is a pain. It's a pain and it takes time. And if you don't have the staff to do it, you fall behind like we did. And one of the nice things about this is that you never actually own the Chromebooks. Insight Financial actually owns the Chromebooks and they take them away.
I cannot tell you, Marc, how many people have said, I don't want to be in the Chromebook business. I want to have device as a service. I want to be able to build all of the things that I need, the service, break, fix, all of those things into this plan. And I want to eliminate any kind of surplus discussion or having to do that. So when you don't own the equipment, that gives you the ability to be able to do that. So it's really interesting. We have tons of customers in Washington and Oregon, and our goal is to make your program work for you and give you the flexible options, give you the ability to be able to do what you need to do on budget with a plan. I mean, it's very interesting. Our districts that we work with, they really are able to go to their boards and say, this is what we need to do to support one-to-one. This is what we need to do for our teachers. This is what we need to do for learning. And it's really amazing how well it's received, because it's like, okay, we can get behind this. This is what we know that we need to do annually. We can get behind this. This makes complete sense.
Colleen, do you scale small districts to large districts? Is this mainly positioned for larger districts?
No. I mean, we have districts as small as a couple thousand to Portland Public Schools, which is 50,000. Right. So you've got no limit really in terms of size. Yeah.
And so ESDs who may have fewer student devices, depending on the programs that you support with devices directly, but even just for like staff machine planning.
I mean, really, and like we do quite a bit of devices, but there's obviously other things that we do. There's classroom equipment, and a lot of times what happens with the classroom equipment projects, and we did this with Marc actually also, was the ability to potentially do more and accelerate your deployment so that you could do more on the budget using potentially tech levy or using those kinds of funding options so that you can make a big splash, right? So you get a tech levy approved and you want to be able to really improve all of the classrooms. Our solution can really help you accelerate those types of things. So we've done that with a variety of districts across the Pacific Northwest.
And I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but I am such a stickler for trying not to put all my eggs in one basket, basically a project in entirely 1 year of stuff that is typically on a refresh cycle. So when you do that, but then you realize you do want to do this stuff up front because it's such a wonderful initiative you're pushing out. In this case, it was interactive flat screens. We did lease the money that we have the money for over time, but we could do all the project up front. So it was just a win-win all the way around. So
we've had districts that, normally might do a quarter or something like that for their classrooms, but they were able to get tech levy and able to do a much larger project. They were able to take advantage of significant discounts because they were buying more, and then really just use the funding to pay for it over the time, over 4 or 5 years, which is the useful life of that equipment anyway. Maybe a little bit longer, but really using those the funding resources to accelerate the project as opposed to having to do it in small tranches.
I mean, my only suggestion, sorry, Rachel, I just cut you off. My only suggestion would be if you are not even unsure, if you don't understand, you will definitely see Colleen, Andy, and Talon at the conference. They're there every year. Or reach out to them and just have the conversation, because once I understood how this is different from a car lease, it made a lot of difference to me.
Yeah.
And I was pretty excited to take advantage of it. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents.
We will invest time. We will invest time, and we don't expect every single person that we invest time with to work with us. I will say in my career, we've now been specifically focused on education for, I think, Andy and I specifically for 10 or 12 years. And it's my favorite thing that I've done in leasing. I've been in leasing for 30 years, but it's my favorite thing because all of you are so interested in learning about just different ways of doing things. And it might not always be the thing that you end up deciding to do, but a lot of times we can make a case for these are the reasons why. And these are the financial benefits, and these are the technological reasons. And we'll invest the time to explore what works for your district. That's our goal, is to just give you really great options. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we understand that. But, we're very committed to digging in and learning what's going to work for you.
I remember that 10 to 12 years ago. And I think I heard and learned about Insight because of a couple of districts in our region. We were coming out of the housing market recession that had been devastating in Oregon, especially, and we don't have tech levies in the way that Washington does. And Insight spreading like little magic dust around our IT managers circle. I think it was before you had started physically being at ACPE. There was this, I don't remember which district it was. It might have been North Clackamas when we bring Leanne on. It was somebody that this is how we're staying afloat. And then it was just our whole group kind of rushed towards that type of solution.
We're so grateful for your group. I mean, honestly, it was one of the first places that we started was in the Pacific Northwest. And we worked with Evergreen, and we worked with Portland Public Schools. That's right. And we worked with it, And Evergreen is probably one of the first ones that we did. And we also
was Derek Brown was maybe okay. I was going to say I think it was Derek, but I forgot about the Evergreen years. Yep.
Yeah, so Evergreen, so grateful for Derek and his partnership long term, and that's kind of actually how we got introduced at North Clackamas as well. Yeah. And we've worked with Federal Way, and we've worked with the Anacortes, so in terms of all different sizes, right? Franklin Pierce is a very big customer of ours, who's been a customer of ours for almost 10 years.
Yes.
And so I'm grateful and appreciate the partnerships that we've had. And just being involved in ACPE is such an incredible organization, and we love spending time with all of you, whether you work with us or not. We love the relationships that we've built.
Same.
It's awesome.
Yep. Same.
It is awesome.
Colleen, you're ready to come like for Ted Lasso year.
Oh, is it Ted Lasso?
I don't think she knew.
Oh shoot! Well, but it's not a secret.
Well, it's fine. It's been announced.
No, but it's so funny because I did a profile on me on our Insight Financial Services LinkedIn, and I used a Ted Lasso quote. I'm already on board. I'm already on board with the whole theme. Absolutely.
Colleen, how can people get a hold of you if they don't want to wait all the way until the conference?
Well, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. Colleen O'Donnell, Insight Financial Services.
You are also connected on my LinkedIn, so you can find me that way too.
I'm actually connected with probably most of the people that are on your podcast, but because I try to do a good job of that. I don't. What do you want? Do you want my email?
Email would be great.
Okay, C O'Donnell at ifsleasing.com, and of course we have this superpower team that Marc talked about, which is Taylin Snow, T-Snow at ifsleasing.com. Andy Hashimoto. Our team is amazing. A Hashimoto at IFS Leasing. So, Insight Financial Services, you can find us on the web. You can find us on LinkedIn. We post pretty regularly.
And here on the Plugged In podcast. And for that,
And here,
we are
thank
grateful.
you guys so much. We
Yes.
are so appreciative of both of the relationships that we have with you guys and with ACPE. And I'm looking forward to your conversation with Leanne and Kevin as well.
Yes.
I think that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah,
Definitely.
we are too.
Well,
The theme of the conference for 202026 is Believe It. We
It is.
always
All
have
right. I love
IT
it.
at the
The
end.
IT in it. Yep.
And Steve Langford, this year's president, has really crafted this amazing vision of that importance of the work that we do, and not just keeping technology running, but actually growing the next generation of Washingtonians and Oregonians sitting in our schools right now.
I'm so amazed by the work that all of you do and always inspired by it.
Well, thank you.
It's a good gig.
I like it.
All right.
Okay.
We will see you in May, if not before.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Thanks so much, you guys. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
It gets better every episode. And it was really good to start.
We've had a lot of different sponsor messages so far, and they've all been slightly different, from incredibly scripted and left us out of things, to incredibly scripted and asked us a couple of little questions, to definitely off the cuff, not planned anything, to Colleen, who planned a little something, but then we engaged with her like it was a podcast. I know that we usually talk about pop culture stuff, Rachel, but I kind of want to get right into our guests
I do
if at all
too.
possible.
Yeah,
But
I think we're going to talk about pop culture with them.
I think so. And I'm going to suggest this backwards just because of the relation to our sponsor.
Okay.
But I know the person I would like to introduce probably better than I do because you're in the same state. And the person that then I would ask you to introduce is somebody I have known since I was a TOSA, which is forever and ever ago. But we're going to flip-flop that because I met Leanne Scherer doing a session at ACPE with Insight Financial.
That's right.
So we were talking about the way we structured leases and the benefits of that in our school district. And so when we had the idea of doing a budgetary refresh replacement cycle episode, I thought, Leanne would be so great with this. And Insight Financial would be great for this too. So I kind of teamed it all up, and that's why I wanted to introduce Leanne.
And Leanne, and I was super excited because I'm one of my favorite people to talk to. And then Marc's like, I know what we do. So, and then Marc was like, and because one of the things for people who have listened to the episode, you'll hear me say, Oregon doesn't have a tech levy. I'm curious about this tech levy. And so one of the things we wanted to do was pair Washington and Oregon because of that difference when we talk about this budgeting conversation. And I get the pleasure, then it sounds like, of introducing Kevin Johnson. I have gotten to know Kevin during ACPE and then in the past 8 years or so now on the board together. And Kevin is just one of the smartest, most thoughtful, organized, and really kind of a glue for the board. And then just selfishly, Kevin, I've gotten to know Kevin's wife, Marci. And it's just one of my things that I look most forward to. Kevin is the work we do together during the day, but then also getting to hang out with you and Marci around the edges of our meetings.
I agree. Totally. It's being on the board, ACP in general, but being on the board specifically has been just a great experience for me professionally, but just having a lot of fun. And I know my wife, Marci, loves hanging out with you guys as much as I do. So thank you for welcoming both of us.
And with Marci, you have an in-house critical review committee on how technology is in Fife.
She'll let me know. Yes. My wife is a first grade teacher in our district. She tries not to take too much advantage of it, but she's married to tech support. So she takes advantage of that sometimes. So yes.
As she should. As she should.
Yes.
All
and
right,
I'm very
Marc, so
happy to give it. So yes.
Yes. Marc, this is where I'm just going to sit here and drink my Diet Coke and sit back and listen now.
I've tried that before and it doesn't work. I met Kevin in 2001.
Was it?
It was right around 2000 because Cindy wasn't Cindy the director in Fife?
Probably 2003. Yes.
Okay.
Because I took a little break from education for 3 years. So I taught for 10 years, and then I went to the private sector in 2000. But I came back when we opened a new junior high, and I got to teach technology, and I got to teach Lego robotics. And that was 2003. And that's when Cindy was the director. And I was doing part-time teaching Legos and part-time district level. But yes, that's when we started doing the South Sound group.
And that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
That was a long.
Blink of an eye.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it does feel like it was just yesterday. I lost a light, but I'm going to leave it off because it actually looks cooler this way. So we're just going to go with that. Anyway, thanks to the both of you for joining us today. As we've alluded to, our topic is around budget. How you create budget, your budget cycles, how you create refresh cycles, or if you do, or any tips and tricks that you may have for your fellow tech directors, CIO, tech departments, all of those things. So basically, we'll get there in a little bit, but we're not quite there yet, because now we get to talk about more of our fun favorite things that you get to participate in, which is pop culture stuff. And I messaged Rachel Tuesday because, no, it was Wednesday, but I saw this thing on Tuesday. So if you've listened or watched any of the earlier podcast episodes, we've talked about the show Paradise and how much everybody loves the show Paradise. Kevin's nodding because Kevin is an avid listener of our podcast. I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to pretend like it is.
Yes.
And it's a really awesome thriller show that just really, it blows your mind. You're like, what is going on? And so we've talked about it a lot. We've had a lot of people come back and talk to us that they have gone and watched Paradise and also blown away by it. And I was in downtown LA on Tuesday, walking where they have the big, huge posters and banners of shows and movies and things. And Paradise Season 2 is coming on February 3rd, and there is already a trailer out for it. So if you want to check out a little sneak peek of Paradise Season 2, if you remember how the last one ended, which I will not say, I believe it picks up right there. So I did see that. But Rachel, I've been on a thrillers kick lately, and that's usually not my thing. I'm usually more of a sci-fi guy. But I watched, and jump in, please, Kevin and Leigh, whatever you want. I have since watched All Her Fault, which was a very interesting kind of dramatic thriller thing. Beast in Me with Claire Danes, and that was all last episode. That was actually hilarious.
Yeah. Hey, Marc, how old's Claire Danes?
Well, she's not as old as me. That's what I know.
There you go.
So, and then I watched Wayward, which was interesting. That was about a camp for troubled kids where the kids go missing. Very weird. And currently watching A Perfect Couple, also very weird. But I have now gone into Landman, and first season of Landman with Billy Bob Thornton, and that show has absolutely grabbed me. Oh, I left out that I saw Zero Day as well, which was really awesome.
I don't know that. I do know Billy Bob Thornton had a new one. I didn't have the name attached yet, and I am looking forward to Paradise.
Landman is a Taylor Sheridan. I don't know if you follow Taylor Sheridan as a writer. Also wrote Lioness, which is a terrific show with Zoe Saldana. Awesome show. So they have a very similar feel to them, but I'm sorry, I'm dominating this conversation. How about our guests? What have you been doing lately?
I was going to add one for you. Do you have Apple TV? If you have Apple TV, Pluribus.
Mm-hmm. I've been watching that too.
I had jury duty Monday and Tuesday, and they let me out early. And so I'm like, oh, what am I going to do this afternoon? Because I'm not going to go back to work because I was in jury duty. And I started in, oh my gosh, it's so good.
Okay, two things with that. Sorry, I know I'm dominating. Rachel said I got to talk this one, so I'm doing it. I've been watching Pluribus. What I tell people to watch it for is, and this happens immediately in the show, so I'm not giving anything away. It's an alien and kind of an alien invasion, hive mind kind of thing, but there's just a limited number of people who it doesn't infect or affect, I should say. And this one woman is trying to do everything she can to basically overthrow this invasion, and none of the other people want this. And she's trying to save humanity, and she comes off as the worst person in the world. Well, there's not a lot of people left, but she's like you hate her. You almost hate her.
Everyone else is very happy with it.
Yeah, it is such a weird position, but I highly recommend it. It's definitely drama. But I also got a postcard yesterday in the mail for jury duty, and I got to write them this morning and say, I can't drive, so I'm not going to jury duty. But one of the friends I was with last week, she is an attorney, and she loves the jury duty shows because she's like, I see this all the time. Have you seen the show Jury Duty?
No.
You should watch the show Jury Duty. I'm trying to remember what network it's on, but it's a fake reality show where they get one dude in to be on jury duty who's a real person and everyone else are actors. And they throw the craziest, most bizarre stuff at him. And they basically are like, we're trying to find the nicest guy in the world and just take him through every weird, possible thing to see how far we can push him. And I heard there's a new season of Jury Duty coming out. Definitely check it out if you want to laugh.
Amazon, it looks like.
It's so funny. It is so funny.
And it's James Mars.
So the guy who is actually in Paradise And
mostly in Memories, though, in Paradise.
Yes, mostly in Memories in Paradise. He's also in, I can't think of the Will Ferrell newscaster one. What was that? That was
Anchorman.
Yes, he was an anchorman. He was the competing news groups. But yes, he plays himself in Jury Duty. And so he's this famous actor, but nobody really knows who he is. And he thinks that everybody does. So he's like bringing his own paparazzi in to look like really popular so he can get out of Jury Duty, but it doesn't work. I highly recommend, if you want a really just dumb laughing show, watch Jury Duty, especially if you've been to Jury Duty, which I have been to Jury Duty way too many times.
All right, we're going to throw this to Kevin in a minute.
Yeah, Kevin, please
I want
save me from myself.
First, Leanne, speaking of Plugged In and pop culture, what sweatshirt are you rocking?
Oh, yes. I have my Chapel Roan sweatshirt on.
That's
Who's
a good
that?
sweatshirt.
I'm just kidding. I am just
I'm going to kick Marc out off the stage at this point, and Kevin and Leanne, we're just going to carry it from here.
Yeah. I got to go down to LA and see her in concert, her last concert. Amazing. It was so good. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous. So jealous. I hope to see her in one of the next rounds.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yes. Really quickly, speaking of music, I'm still obsessed with Ray, the British soul, pop, jazz, amazing voice, amazing instrumentation, brilliant, genius level human being. And she's becoming more popular after I think a decade of really good work for the Where the Hell Is My Husband song that you might see on social media, or it might be climbing your music apps, because it's amazing. If you haven't heard it yet, her whole catalog is, but it's the one that's currently popular.
R-A-E?
R-A-Y-E.
Y-E.
Yes. Kevin, what you watching or listening to?
I'm caught up on Stranger Things.
That I am not.
So that's, I think the next episode for me comes out, is it Christmas Day?
Is that the one that's going to be in the theaters?
I don't know.
It's the well, all I saw was the finale is like 2 hours long and they were going to show it in theaters.
Oh, okay. I hadn't heard that. Probably the thing that we've been watching most, and it's been months now, is we're kind of on this Chicago Fire kick. That's what Marci and I will sit down and watch, and it's and it goes on and on and on, and we look forward to seeing how many impalements per show there are. So
And so here's the good service that Insight Financial provides. I just got a text from Colleen O'Donnell with a link to Where Is My Husband?
Colleen, clutch.
Not only do they, take care of the Chromebook finances, but provide pop culture links too. So,
and in the Venn diagram of the magic of all of this, Colleen's texting you from Chicago as Kevin's saying Chicago Fire.
Right? When she was talking about being in Chicago, I thought, I know that place.
Yeah,
well
people
now
get impaled there.
Of all the places,
at least when it's on fire.
Every place there's an impalement. I know where that is. So yeah.
Yes. Kevin, related to Chicago Fire, I have a Samsung TV, and I have been learning and listening from the tech and culture podcasts. There is this accelerating trend back towards there's a phrase for it, linear TV. For like the past year or so, there are some nights that I don't want to actually try to find something on a streaming service, but I want some noise in the background when I'm settling in. And so I turn it on, and there's this channel called ION, ION. I'm not a huge TV person. And so this is kind of like, I'm like relearning something that I knew in my teens and 20s. And it is so comfortable just to turn on that channel, and Chicago Fire, because it's just on the TV and I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And it's funny how it's coming full circle. I love the combination of the two. There are times that I can say, I want to watch exactly this when I want to watch it. And then there's also the ability to get home and have a really full brain and just want to have some background noise and maybe not music that night, and just whatever's playing on the TV, play on the TV.
Yeah.
I love having the best of both.
Sometimes your brains are too full and you have to take pieces out.
Sometimes the brain is too full and you have to take some pieces out. Yep.
Does Leanne even know what happened to me?
Well, I mean, I didn't, but now I feel like I do.
Yeah, I had a brain tumor removed 7.5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So there you go. It was pretty great. I'll send you pictures.
And now he can't leave the house. And that's why our thoughts and prayers all go to Nicole with a cooped up Marc.
Okay. I have a follow-up question. Sorry, Kevin, if you have more stuff, but it does make me want to ask all of you a question. And Kevin, I really hope that what we're doing right now matches what AI told you our show is about, because that was one of the funniest emails I've ever seen. Kevin put, tell me what to expect from the Plugged In podcast. And it basically said that we just talk about whatever, and we throw surprise questions out there. But here's my surprise question for you. Do you have comfort TV that you put on in the background other than like just the Ion channel itself? What show can you just put on that you're never going to actually watch? I'll go first. I don't know why, but it's Impractical Jokers. I don't know why I can always just turn that show on and just let it run and nobody watches it, but it's just cool to run back there. What's your shows? Do you have one, or do you have remote discipline where you can just turn off the TV?
I don't think I turn it on very often just to have it in the background. But if I did, I think the two shows that come to mind, and I end up probably watching them more than ignoring them, is The Office and Seinfeld. Oh, Law and Order is another one that we can just, whenever we go to a hotel, because we don't get Law and Order on our at home. So whenever we go to a hotel, we always look for the Law and Order channel.
It's in every hotel. I'm so glad you said that. And it's 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's like a Law and Order channel. It's really weird.
And you're never seeing the repeats because it goes on and on. I think isn't it one of the longest running shows?
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, Leanne, Rachel, what are your go-tos?
I'm similar. So West Wing, I watch once or twice a year. Just let it run, let it go. And MASH, which started during COVID. So Labor Day weekend, that was when I started my MASH marathon during COVID of 2020. And I just did Gossip Girl. So that was a throwback.
Yeah, that's a good one. I startled if you're watching on video because MASH would be my show. Leanne, good taste.
And I was close to saying MASH.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah.
I feel so left out here.
We're apparently older than you, Marc.
But these are shows that you put on that you kind of don't pay attention to. They're just there.
Yeah, because I start at season 1, episode 1 and just play it through. And then I move on to something else and play it through like that. But I just read a book that is called, I can't remember what it's called, but it was nurses during the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And so that made me want to watch China Beach.
The women?
Yes, that's what it's
I
called.
read that too. That was very good.
Very good. I might do that over winter break. I'm taking a little bit of time off, so I might do that over winter break.
I feel like my life is so unserious.
Well,
I watch Impractical Jokers. That's what I turn on in the background.
Well, I would say that MASH would give Impractical Jokers a run for its money. I mean, that is why it's my background one. There's something about Alan Alda's voice and just the comedy of it that brings me joy. They're not too far apart. I think we will actually cut some of this into a B-side, or we punked Colleen and we told her that she was going to sponsor an episode talking about how we budget and plan long cycle, and we ended up just talking about sitcoms.
Yeah,
I'm okay either way.
It's pretty much it. Yeah. So there you go.
So I'm going to transition us.
I thought that you weren't talking.
Well, because I'm going to start with a question and then I'm going to listen and learn. Leanne, I don't know if you know much about Washington's levees.
They're spilling over right now. They're flooding. The water is going over our levees right now. Let's just be honest.
Okay, bonus points, Marc. That was pretty clever. Well done. But why don't we have Kevin take the floor on this? I don't know if Fife has a levee, but can you give us a rundown of your philosophy and how you like to do things in Fife?
I can't pass this up, Kevin. I can't pass this up. Fife has a lot of levees because they're right on the Puyallup River, which is flooding right now. There's like a levee road and the road is closed and Fife is just on the other side of it.
Yes, we are. There is literally a levee on the edge of our district. And in fact, I was driving to one of our schools today, actually last several days, as I'm driving to a school. It's almost a little unnerving how close you are to the water. And it was pretty high. It wasn't spilling over the levees where we were. So I think it's upstream a little bit more. But yeah, we're not that far. So yeah, we in Washington can do a capital levy to support technology. In Fife, we have had a interrupted levy funding for almost 20 years. We're right in the middle of a 6-year levy, and it is dedicated to the purchase of new technology. But there's a lot that can be done with that in terms of software and personnel training to support that new technology. So the bulk of my budget is that technology levy. There's some rules around all that, but that's essentially it.
Is the rule specifically that you can have a levy for technology?
Yes.
Or is it there's this levy that can be used for
sort of. So it's like in Oregon, you can run bonds, which is a capital fund.
Right, but there's the local option levy is what I'm wondering about. Like in Oregon, we have a local option levy. We have one. we don't use it for technology. We use it to pay for teachers, right?
Right. So that's our other kind of levy.
Right.
So what I was kind of getting at is your bonds that you can run are capital funds. And what we run in Washington, a bond, at least for our school district, right? No, sorry, excuse me, our state, a bond is 60% voter approval, plus you have to hit a certain threshold of voters in your precincts or whatever it is. But levies, we call those, what is it now, Kevin? Is it enrichment levies? Is that what the official name is now?
What is it? I never remember. EP&O.
They changed the name of the levy all the time.
I think it's,
but those levies are 50 plus 1 on the vote. And so the reason now what we do with a tech or tech and safety or tech and construction, because this year we're running what we're calling ours a tech and capital levy, capital construction levy. It doesn't have to necessarily be technology. It's a capital levy. So those dollars fall under the accounting manual as capital funds. And therefore they have a lot of restrictions around what you can do with capital dollars that the enrichment levy does not have, if that makes sense.
But the enrichment levy is not the technology levy?
Not necessarily. You can,
because in Oregon, I think that there are some districts who have used their local option levy for technology.
No, I mean, it is basically more unrestricted funds than what comes out of a capital levy. So we tend to call our capital levies tech levies, or up north, like Seattle, that area, they do bus levies or transportation levies. They buy buses with capital funds this way, but we don't necessarily have to call it a tech levy. It's just the way we can do it. But we have a wonderful accounting manual from our state that is 118 pages long, and it tells you how you can spend these funds and how you can't. That's just kind of the way that a capital levy works. And the nice thing about that is it's not a bond. So this is a 50 plus 1. It's a levy. And the bonds just are, in my previous district, they were so difficult to pass because to get to 60% was really a stretch. So sorry, I cut you off, Leanne.
No, that's one of the pieces that I think is interesting to me. So I do side work where I do PD for teachers. And so I travel sort of nationally to do that. And people are like, oh, it's so different here. It's so different there. What happens in the classroom between the teacher and the student, and what happens like in that relationship, and even to a certain extent, what happens in a school is the same. It doesn't matter if it's Florida, if it's rural Iowa, if it's Chicago, or if it's Oregon or whatever. But how we fund it and how we pay for things and how that whole infrastructure around that is wildly different. And it's just fascinating to me to see how then that downstream, how that impacts what does happen in the classroom. So anyway, it's the same but different. And it's similar, but there's slightly different rules of how you can do it.
Absolutely. So Leanne, can you put in context for folks listening, North Clackamas is a district of some size. And then we heard Colleen talking about insight and flexible ways of stretching budgets and flattening curves and the ups and downs of education funding, especially in Oregon, which I think we have a little more of. So can you give us a sense of North Clackamas and then your philosophy?
So we have about 17,000 students, K-12. We have 30 schools. We have 4 sort of comprehensive high schools. We have a very large career technical center that all of our high schools attend. So that's a unique technology focus area as well. We have a couple of charter schools that sometimes participate, sometimes don't in certain things. I just also, just for folks to know if they don't, I'm new to technology. So I was not a technology TOSA teaching Lego robotics, right? I started in technology in July of 2020. So that was when I was hired in technology. I had never used a Chromebook. I didn't know what it was. So there's been a lot of learning for me. So in that time, actually, our district had almost enough devices to be one-to-one for every student, but they were all over the place. They were a wide range of what they were. So we actually used a lot of our ESSER funds to actually get to one-to-one, to where now we have consistent devices one-to-one in different formats in places. But that was over 3 years. We had a technology director, Derek Brown, who started that leasing relationship with Insight Financial, and that was what we've done. So cut to 3 years ago, where Leanne's now the technology director, and now I have to figure out, okay, we bought 9,542 devices one year because that's what we could get. And 6 months before, we bought 2,300, right? So how do we now get into a cycle? And we're still in the middle of it, and I'm still fumbling around with it. But in that time, we've also been dealing with what do we want our one-to-one to be, right? Because we didn't come at it from this is an instructional initiative. We came at it from well, everyone's at home and everyone needs a Chromebook, so we got to get a bunch of Chromebooks. And so through that, we've actually stepped back a little bit. And so this year we moved, while we have the number of devices at our middle school, they're back in classroom carts. And so it's a bunch of math and a bunch of spreadsheets to figure out how many devices need to be where, roughly a 5-year replacement cycle. And what I want to get to is sort of what Marc described of, 20% a year, replacing 20% a year. And so just each year balancing that. And what has been helpful for us with Insight Financial is because they are leased, at that lease end, we have an option to buy them out in a really inexpensive way. So we just had our first lease come up last year, which was about that $2,500. We bought them. A large part of it was because it was way less expensive to buy instead of paying $250 for a screen, because we also do our own repairs. We kept those at $50. We kept them. Yeah.
For your own parts bank.
So it's a part. So
my gosh.
So we've extended the life on some of them because the idea was it was a 4-year, but now we have them for parts. We have a great big one that we're going to be figuring out how many of those we're going to keep, how many we're going to, send back, but with that idea that it's just way less expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And Leanne, I know that you've got a team similar to Beaverton's and David Andrade there, who has taken such a lead in Oregon on how to really reduce costs by doing your own Chromebook repair. I knew what you were going to say, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, the parts bank. And really quickly, and then I'll turn it back over to Marc. I also know that you're making a change. We were talking about it at IT managers meeting, the Oregon group. You're making a staff device change. Is that right?
Yeah. So we're in year 3 of a transition to first being a pilot year of our teachers moving from MacBooks to Chromebooks, and really not from a cost savings perspective, decided to go with a lease on those teacher Chromebooks. But it was more because it was really unknown. We didn't know how it was going to play out. And I didn't want to end up stuck with 250, 500 Chromebooks that then we've decided this isn't going to work. It's going to be a complete flop, and then have to buy a bunch of Macs. But it hasn't been. So, it worked out.
We're watching you very closely.
I have some wood here somewhere. I still get contacted on the regular. Hey, can I get one of those Chromebooks? I know we're not supposed to be, I know I'm in high school, but I'd really like to have a Chromebook. That's really where it's at. So it's kind of crazy. But the thinking behind it on my part was that's going to allow me to be a little more flexible in if this doesn't work out, I would be able to kind of get out of that in an easier way.
Right.
Because I'm not stuck with the device. One other piece, because I think this is important in Oregon, and I assume it is in Washington as well, is we're losing kids and gaining kids, and it's really fluid. So when I look at our 10-year enrollment projections, I'm not going to need the number of devices that I have today. If I look at our 5-year enrollment, so leasing, I don't end up with a lot of devices that I don't need. And to your point, I think, Marc, that you were making earlier about not having to figure out how to surplus those. It's just, I think it's that flexibility as well.
Mm-hmm.
One last note on as you move the teachers to the Chromebooks, I think you're similar to Mike and I and the work that they've been doing in Redmond in choosing a pretty beefy Chromebook, right? I mean, it's not a $250 or a $300 or $400 Chromebook. And then just one other shout out, Ben Mabbitt. Clackamas has been a lead since Oregon signed that Google contract back in 2009, 2010. Ben was right there. He is somebody that Google actually asks, right? Like, how would we do this? And just a long time ACPE voice leading on Google. And so your teachers, while the form factor on the devices are changing, they've been in Google from very early on. And so their workflow is not impacted by the device changing underneath it.
Enhanced. Yes. Because it's sort of like, I've been describing it to teachers as a portal to your Google Drive.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen frequently, but it was the most repeated, most common question or I will say concern that we got from teachers. I can't possibly move to a Chromebook because how will I access my Google Drive if I don't have mine?
Isn't that so? Like
there's no concept of what it is. I need to be able to access my Google Drive. I can't do that on a Chromebook. And then we kind of explained, oh, okay. you know? So,
Yes. Well
Well,
done.
we've started the conversations in our district. We haven't gotten very far with it, but we
mhm.
did have interest from teachers to say, I'd try that. I'd be
Yeah,
happy to try that.
yeah.
And, a little slightly different as part of our equipment rollout, we let any teacher have a student Chromebook so that what they put up on their panels matches.
Mhm.
It's really important that they're not showing Chrome in a Mac to students who are in a Chromebook. It may look pretty similar, but it's not the same.
Not the same.
So that is something we do. But I kind of would like to go back to part of the conversation that Kevin and I were having about what makes a tech levy or a capital levy a capital levy. I did allude to the budget manual that we get from, I think it's OSPI that gives us the budget manual. And there is a whole section in there around capital levies. So there's a narrow definition of what we can buy and what we can fund in a capital levy, and technology fits in that really, really well. So that's why I think you see a lot of transportation and technology capital levies that go out there. And technically, they did just change this a few years ago. We can buy replacement systems now with tech levy dollars. It doesn't always have to be a brand new, unique type of thing. So we can replace Chromebooks. Technically, that's why it's okay. And as long as it's dedicated to an initiative that you're doing out of a technology levy, we can provide support staff for that as well. So that's how we can pay for people in a technology department for that. But what's really interesting is, for example, me. I am not 100% funded out of a technology levy because not every piece of the work that I do is associated to a technology levy initiative that's currently in phase
Mhm.
at that point in time. So the only people in my department that should be funded 100% out of a technology levy that we run are the 3 TOSAs that we have, because everything they do is related to things that we specifically do out of our tech levy, but our technicians can't, because then they couldn't work in CTE rooms because CTE is funded out of a different funding source. So we have a lot of rules that go with it, but it does make it a lot easier for us to fund technology refresh cycles and things like that. So we've been talking about Chromebooks a lot. And this conversation tonight's not just about Chromebooks, but it's about your overall budgeting practices. And I'll start this one off. Like, do you have a hard and fast rule that you personally stick to? Because as the technology leaders in our districts, a lot of people depend on us to actually set a budget, an annual budget for what we're going to try and accomplish with those dollars. I think it's a little different for Kevin and myself because we have a specific set of money that we're getting through a tech levy. But I can say in my previous district, I ran the very first tech levy that got passed and then left at that exact same time. I've since written 3 tech levies, and we're taking one to our voters this February. But for me, at least, our tech levy is a 4-year tech levy. That's our 4-year tech plan. That is what we do for 4 years. And we try not to stray from those budget lines that we set in place. And I would say whether you have a tech levy or you're doing it all out of general fund, I always recommend people start with all of their mission critical replacement cycles.
Yeah.
That is where you start. And what can you put on a replacement cycle? And then the next thing I say is put everything you possibly can imagine on a replacement cycle and see what that pencils out at after 4 years or 6 years. And then you start to work backwards from there. Do I have enough money to accomplish this? Or how much budget do I need to accomplish this? Because I think I talk to a lot of our colleagues who don't think in replacement cycle terms. And I've done this myself, where you buy a bunch of stuff all at once and it all expires all at the same time. And you're thinking, how do I get out of this? And now you're playing the game that both Kevin and Leanne have said, where you're trying to kind of dig your way out of it and get yourself into that cycle. It's uncomfortable. And I'm sure, Rachel, you've been there too. I think we've all made this mistake. Maybe she's smiling because she's never done this. But I will say that that was the number one priority I brought to Olympia when I came in and we wrote our first tech levy, was everything we can possibly imagine will be on a replacement cycle. And I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I had to have long conversations with our network administrator to say, tell me how many years these switches will last. Well, we can make them last this long. I said, I'm not interested in you making something work for this long. I want to know what the practical life of this is, because we should be budgeting for new equipment and I will say we set our switch lives at 7 years. And as soon as we started to create lifespans for those things, we actually start looking at things like leasing. This is how long this lease would happen for, or our interactive flat panels. We said 6 years for our interactive flat panels. Could we get more than that? Probably. But, we set practical life cycles, and that's what drives our plan. And then we do the special things on top of that maybe aren't life cycled out. Yeah. So that's
Marc,
my hard and fast rule.
I will jump in and say I was not smiling because I had anything figured out. I am an accidental CIO. I was voluntold into my CIO role in almost the worst of the housing market. crisis in Oregon and recession in Oregon. And as an accidental CIO, I got to come to the table with lots of, I'm assuming that we do something this way. And I think the refresh cycle was one of the first things. For me, it made sense to be able to flatten that curve because I came up through understanding that there are years that there is no money. And the piece that I want to add is if you do kind of a meta-analysis on your ticket system and on the techs and on the total cost when you factor in the additional time that aging equipment requires, then it really starts penciling out quickly.
So, oh, sorry. I think Leanne was
Oh,
taking
I
your
was
pick.
just going to say that's really helpful. That's one of the things that we haven't had good data on. We have been 5-year replacement cycle for staff devices, sometimes stretching to 6. We've also been in max. So it kind of like, I don't think
They just work.
yeah.
They don't ever die.
Yeah. So we can stretch that. But what has been coming to me now with the budget realities that we are facing, or and I've also not in technology, but I was also a district leader in 2008, right? So I know where we're going. And so I've been asked to look at this and, how could we save money in our student Chromebooks, that kind of thing. And, can we have them for 6 years, 7 years like that? And that was part of what I know is a reality is, yes. And we're going to spend a lot more time keeping them going and keeping it running. So that means what's the trade-off is maybe one of my techs is going to be full-time doing repairs, something like that. So that's definitely a piece that I'm trying to capture that I don't have hard numbers for.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I wish I did because it would be helpful.
It's like when's the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago? When's the second best time to plant a tree today? If you don't have that factored in as a tag or some type of category in your ticket system, it's been really helpful.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've never heard that phrase before.
When is the best day to plant a tree? 20 years ago.
Never heard
the
it.
Second best day?
Today.
What's a dentist's favorite time? Tooth hurdy. Sorry, that's my offer for the day. I have been basically right out the gate in Olympia saying we're going to set replacement cycles for this stuff and it's going to rule the world and we're going to set it for all of these things. And I have now come to learn that wasn't necessarily the best thing to do either, because there are some projects that you really shouldn't set a replacement cycle for, because now you're waiting for 4 years to complete this project. And the current tech levy that we've written with the help of our committee, which is made up of staff members, students, and administrators. We actually kind of blended it. So all the replacement cycle things are there. And then we brought in special projects that cannot be replacement cycle stuff. And one of the ways that we used a leasing company, in this case, it was Insight Financial. Thank you, Colleen and Andy and Talon. We had a replacement for our surveillance camera system. So a whole new system going in. I had that spread across 4 years. And then my network admin, who is also in charge of that, said, "Why did you do that? I can't stretch this for 4 years. Why are we putting stuff in for 4 years?" So we have the money for it in 4 years, but we actually financed it up front to be able to complete that project in 1 year. And then we are paying for it for 4 years. So it was just a great way that we could leverage those dollars, because Marc was not smart in how he put that project together.
Yeah, I get you. Folks, this is Rachel. In post-production, we lost Kevin's recording over the past 15 minutes. I'm going to drop us back in right as we're realizing what happened. And oh yes, if you're not watching, Marc has put back on his shark costume. So he'll begin sweating almost immediately. Enjoy the rest of this episode. Marc, you did a wardrobe change while we did a little bit of technical
Are you starting to
switcheroo.
back up it? Is that what's happening right here?
That's what's happening right now. Welcome back, Kevin Johnson and Shark.
Well, if you've been watching, you know my name has been Left Shark Marc this whole time. So I felt like I needed to put the shark outfit back on.
I thought maybe the shark thing was part of the tumor healing.
Rachel, you give me way too much credit for thinking things through. I just wanted to wear this tonight.
Are you wearing it to ACPE? Is there a Ted Lasso shark? Well, I guess there are goldfish. Like, be a goldfish.
Yeah, be a goldfish. There you go.
Be a goldfish.
In a world of sharks.
Yeah. Kevin, we did a little technical switcheroo and we have you back. Could you hear us? Could you hear Leanne and Marc talking about the things in their districts? And
yes.
It sounds like you're in that spot where you are moving into a more regular schedule.
Yeah, I think that what you're saying makes sense. It's our goal. We're getting there. We're getting close. And the nice thing about having, in our case, a 6-year levy is I really can plan out. I need to plan out 6 years. And so that helps me that's a full refresh cycle on a lot of the things that we're dealing with. So I think COVID sort of just was that giant boulder in the pond that just kind of blew everything up. So we hadn't quite gotten to our first refresh after going 1-to-1 and then new devices for staff. So we're kind of at that point now where we're able to start settling into that regular cycle, and that's our goal. So yeah, it's just funding wise, just making sure that that's in sync. How much we're collecting every 6 months or every year. What do we need to save and bank in order to match the timing of purchases and deployments, and it's just coordinating all that. But yeah, I feel like we're getting there. We're on track.
Tech finance question on levies. So you said you have a 6-year. Can you, if you wanted to do a 4-year refresh, I mean, you can refresh at 4 years within a 6-year levy. You don't have to say that we can't refresh
And
until
vice
the
versa
7th year.
too, Rachel. For example, our interactive flat panels are in a 6-year cycle, but we run a 4-year tech levy.
That's right.
So we
Okay.
actually have to think past, and we never assume that we're going to pass our next one. Thank you, Olympia voters. We love you, and you support us so well. But we can't count on that,
Right.
So those refresh cycles are still there. But if something drastic happens, like we don't pass a tech levy, then we have to have a very different conversation about what we do.
Yeah, like I said, we've had a consistent.
Sorry, Rachel's got a shocked face right now. What's happening here?
So what
It's
happens
possible
what happens when a levy doesn't pass? Has it happened before? And does a district have to come up with $250,000 or $1 million for a large district just to keep the tech lights on?
It depends on what tech light you're talking about. I mean, we may go down to a night light with a quarter of our staff.
But wouldn't this also be a place where I guess my thinking about the leasing that if in year 4, right, that where you would be returning your devices, instead you could buy them out much lesser price than having to buy a brand new device. So that, to me, that was also a benefit that was in the back of my mind, knowing how Oregon is funded and that it's up and down and up and down and up and down, that it would allow me in some ways to maintain a program that I might not be able to if I had to buy new devices.
Yeah.
$60 is less than $500.
That's a good pickup on that.
Mm-hmm.
You could use it as a life raft for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's,
there was go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I was going to say, and when we did our first 1-to-1 in 2017, and we did leasing on 3,500 Chromebooks at that point, we did negotiate to that a buyout, for a low price, a small price. And so we were able to keep all of those Chromebooks and have them last beyond their lease life. It was a 4-year lease. And so we were able to carry on for several more years, even though we had to start working in new devices to sustain. But we had all the rest of those original devices from primary use. We still have a number of them around, like I said, secondary use and supplemental use, I should say. But
yeah,
that is what we were able to do in that case.
Yeah. We had an ACPE board member for quite some time that my understanding is that he would lease to secure funds that couldn't get touched then for budget cuts. It's a way of locking things in. And that's another strategy around leasing, and we're talking a lot about leasing, but there are a lot of strategies as to why you lease, which is to get projects done more quickly if you don't have the funding up front. Or we do with Chromebooks for us, we have the cash for it. So we did a one-time payment lease. It just puts ownership in somebody else's hands. And it can actually reduce the overall unit cost of a Chromebook because there's still life left when they want these devices back. And a great example of that is our interactive flat panels. I said I wanted to do a 6-year lease and they said, no, we'll do a 5-year lease because we want something back that's still worth something. Because they don't make money on the finance charges. That's not where they make their money. Sorry, Colleen, I'm going ahead and outing you on this one. They make their money with Chromebooks on reselling those Chromebooks and reselling the parts of those Chromebooks. There's a whole business behind this as to why there is a life, and that you negotiate the life of the lease because it's got to be financially advantageous for them too. So Colleen's probably going to text me and just start yelling at me or something. But that's how it was at least explained to me. And I know for a fact that we will be buying out our interactive flat panels because there is an incredible cost to ship those out at 86-inch, devices. So
this is all fascinating to me.
Kind of backing things up. I haven't got a text message yet, so she must not be too angry or reading my mind.
And she texted me to tell me to, get you.
Do the hook.
Oh, wait. Nope, she just texted me, but I'm not going to look at it. I can't. I don't have fingers.
Plead ignorance afterwards.
No.
Ask forgiveness, not permission at this
No,
point.
I mean, I guess my tip for anybody who might be new to, a leadership position in a technology department, whether it's Oregon or Washington, whether you have a tech levy or you don't have a tech levy in Washington even, and this is just my opinion and my advice, is that you start with those mission critical items that have to have a refresh cycle, and you have to plan those things. Because if your foundational network goes down, it doesn't matter if you have all the devices and you have the flashy stuff, nothing is going to get done. It stops. All business stops in your district at that point in time. And you hear lots of people say teachers are resilient and they'll go to paper and pencil, and they will, but not for long.
And they won't do it. And they won't do it happily.
No.
I agree with you. And what was going through my mind is, unfortunately, I think that we've forgotten some of those lessons that we learned in COVID about the critical nature of the technology, that there are certain things that just have to be in place, that you can't not have it. I have no solution for that other than just, there was a time when it was recognized. And now I think we've forgotten a little bit of that because we're not at home, we're at school. So
one of the
even though
things
the net there and everything is still online and it's all through us.
It strikes me that idea of how critical many things are no longer under direct technology management. I mean, there's so many more systems now that people will submit a ticket to us and say, well, can I get help with this? There's been times we don't even know what it is, or we're familiar with it, but somebody else is completely responsible for it. But it's an essential thing. So it's gone beyond just what can fit within our department. It's ubiquitous in all departments. Every room in the district is reliant on that. And so it's so much more embedded in everybody's job, not just technology doing something on your behalf.
Yeah. But I will say we learned a harsh lesson with our last tech levy. It was brutal and I'm going to use the word inflation, because we're taking to the voters our 2027 4-year technology levy. It is 2025. So we have gone through a committee process of using round numbers, and let's almost say close to MSRP numbers, because we can't count on educational discounts 2 years from now, 3 years, 4 years from now.
Right.
We have to assume a higher price because that's the price we see. But we planned for our 2023 levy. We planned that in 2021. And we did not expect to see inflationary rates that we saw for 2 years in a row that absolutely demolished our budgets. So, I mean, those are things that you also have to consider when you're putting your refresh cycles together. You almost have to try and predict. And right now is just an unpredictable time economically.
And to over predict. I guess what I did is what do I think would be like a high end, 10% a year increase. I don't think it's going to be that much, but if I figure 10% a year, then I know that I've allowed for what I think maybe is going to happen or might possibly happen.
I mean, I always say I want a little bit of padding in there, and it's not fair to say that because we shouldn't, as a school district, ever say padding, but we're predicting the future. We're trying to predict anywhere from 2 to 6 years in the future on a 4-year tech levy.
Yeah.
And that is really hard, almost impossible. So
if there's a disruption in the supply chain related to some of the geopolitical pressures that are bubbling up all over the place, if there is another spike in inflation due to this, that, or the other, I mean, I talk with awe and wonder about the Washington tech levies, but you inherit some risk and exposure on that prognostication piece that you have to do.
We went to our community and we promised these things over 4 years or 6 years in Kevin's case. And what happens when inflation takes a crazy spike for 2 years even, and now you're going to have a hard time affording these things?
Yes.
And I thought that was going to be impossible the way we budgeted in this tech levy we're currently in, and it blew my mind.
Well, and the increase just in the number of systems and subscriptions. I mean, just the number of products has just grown. I mean, I think of the number, like our building systems that, in the past you'd put in a wire. Well, now you're putting in systems that require licensing and renewals and maintenance. And so the complexity, what you can do with building systems as an example, access control, lockdown systems, all those things. You can do a lot more with them, but you now have an ongoing, perpetual, repeating cost to it that you didn't have 10, 20 years ago.
And then throw curriculum in there. Like your printers, the curriculum houses, publishing houses. That's the word I was trying to get out. It doesn't cost them that much money to create piles of PDFs and, some sort of electronic resource. But who made the most money in schools for so long? It was textbook publishers.
I'm so glad that you said that. I would love to have the time. I do not have the time to go back and look at the textbook purchases 15 to 25 years ago, kind of roll those forward into today's costs, acknowledge that we held on to textbooks way past their useful age until the past maybe 1 or 2 cycles, and just kind of see like how out of scale are we now on curriculum costs compared to the textbook adoption cycles.
Right. And I think our estimate right now for our district of 9,500 kids is about $5 million to do a full curriculum adoption. That's a lot of money. So is it absolutely worthwhile to stay in an electronic version of something instead of staying with printed materials? Sure. But the publishers aren't going to give up their money. So they're charging us an absurd amount for something that they just put little edits and changes in after they've got it done the first time.
And to be fair, same as in school districts.
I don't want to be fair to those people.
To be fair,
the shark.
That's right.
To be fair, same as in school districts, the real cost of curriculum creation is the staff cost, the creating the content cost, like probably at an 80-20 split, similar to us in terms of people costs.
I had an interesting LinkedIn, hey, you might be interested in this job that was, as far as I could tell, it was written in a really cagey way. But as far as I could tell, they used AI to write curriculum and then they were hiring people to edit that and fix it. And I almost wanted to apply because I was so interested in seeing what it was. Do this at night at home,
Oh my gosh. Mechanical Turk. Is that what that Mechanical Turk, like the outsourcing of like the penny to 2 penny to 4 penny tasks?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We might be back in that cycle again.
I've also never heard of that term before.
Mm-hmm. I haven't heard that exact term, that concept. Yes. Yeah.
Rachel keeps me on my toes.
That's good. I'm glad someone does.
No. So the thing that, in our committee conversations, we actually threw quite a bit more construction in this capital levy. So we're actually proposing to replace our shared field turf and lighting on that field because it is a capital levy. We can do construction with those things. Our current one, we have built out safety vestibules in all the schools that didn't have one, which was a great use of tech levy capital funds because it serves kind of both pieces. But our construction folks kept saying, we want more money. We want to do more projects. And I said, run a bond. And they were like, we can't run a bond until 2032. And I said, as we're talking, they're like, maybe if you decrease your software that you're paying for, there'd be more money for us to do this. And I looked at them and said, you really aren't getting the whole as a service thing. I said, your industry's next. And ever since I made that off the cuff statement, I find myself daydreaming about what is it about construction that is going to be as a service next? Is it going to be the lights? We do field lighting as a service. Is it going to be, I have no idea, but I said, you wait 5 years and you're going to be paying.
And the camera, I mean, those are under technology, but those are also construction. I mean,
sure, but I'm thinking like, are you going to run HVAC service?
Like all those pieces.
I mean, already
monitoring.
Right. Already. And this is an interesting, okay. It's going to be HVAC is the next thing. If it's not already, it's going to be.
I think it's there.
It probably is.
Kind of defining the term construction to, I see where you're heading, Marc, and that idea of constructing something as in like building the one-time thing versus the things that kit out the physical structure. I'm going to walk around thinking, okay, Marc's question, construction itself as a service. Mm-hmm. And to Leanne's point, I think we're there on HVAC and a number of other related systems.
Already CenturyLink sent us an offer and probably sent all of us an offer that said, a great backup for your schools is this connection at your school and you will pay for what you use. It's internet as a service. And I went, what? Are you serious? And then I was like, oh, it actually makes sense. If it's not the primary connection and we need something as a backup, why would we pay for it if we're not using it? Okay. But we're not doing it, but
there's the blurring between facilities and technology too, though. Like we're finding more and more, and we've started, which I have found to be one of the most valuable teams I'm on now, is because I'm under operations and, that we meet biweekly. And more these projects, it's harder to say, is this a technology project or is this a facilities project, because of that interconnectedness and how things are linked and how everything runs on a computer, even if it is the HVAC system, right? Even if like the transportation system, all of those pieces that you can't say it's one or the other. It's both and. So, and I think that's kind of where you're getting at. It's not because it's the building of the thing or the bus that's driving around. It's because on that is a video system that then you have to have this, that, and the other thing that connects to it, and a service to keep that going, and to review the video or whatever, or to monitor when the generator goes down, so that they get a ping, so that it's not at 6:30 in the morning when the custodian shows up that they know that there's no power at Riverside because it flooded, right? Those are the services.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
We've been fed a building bond that we're just concluding. It started about 8 years ago, and we were able to build a couple of new schools, remodel our district office, add a building at the high school, and upgrade some of the systems in our older buildings. But that has been one of the largest changes for our department is think about locks and access control and doors, think about clocks and intercoms and somewhat HVAC and somewhat lighting, and all those systems were primarily or almost exclusively maintenance and facilities. They are most of those things, except for HVAC and lighting, but all those other systems are primarily tech now. And so not only are we needing capacity just to handle it, but also to learn those systems.
Yeah.
And it's been something that's been a big part of our learning and a big challenge for us in the last few years, just to keep up with that.
I would say HVAC and lighting are destined. I mean, on the new buildings that we're doing, it is all very much number one, network connected, and essentially almost like a software as a service.
Environmental monitoring, looking at vape sensors is the thing, right? That maybe is also connected to some other, but it's all runs on the network. So then there's also the load on the network, which is clearly a technology thing. But that's part of, like, when we're having these discussions, we're like, okay, what is it? Not only is it, what does it take to buy that, train that, maintain that, but also what is the other load on the system? So we're going to a bond, and that's been part of the discussion, is that you're talking about all these new systems. That means we have to beef up our network. And we have a really good network in our district, right?
You do.
There's
North Clack is
really,
like historically just rock solid.
Very solid. And we're stressing it with all these initiatives and these things that are safety, security, health pieces that are bond funded. And there's also this other piece that you wouldn't upfront necessarily think is something that has to be considered and budgeted for.
I still am sitting here struggling now. My mind has gone to the construction as a service piece. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something that totally, just takes me by surprise. Like, we're going to be using bulldozers in a hardware as a service way. What's it going to be? I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm trying not to be shocked when it happens.
I have some ideas, and it's that the bulldozers are actually driven by bunker drone pilots in Oklahoma. Kids.
Stop giving away our ideas.
With a PS4 or an Xbox controller. And I'm going to put a chip for, it's going to likely be 10 years. So when we're sitting here, and Marc and I are way older than Claire Danes, 10 years from now.
Well, no, we'll be the same amount of older than her.
Don't harsh my mallow on that. I actually think essentially like Waymo buses and subscription service on the software that routes and drives the buses autonomously is somewhere in our near-term horizon in K-12. And I know this is unfortunate timing because, we've had the news headlines about Waymo kind of zipping around buses with the stop arm out, and thankfully no injuries, but a big software update. Transportation is another fertile space for that idea of that continual revenue stream for software that does something that traditionally has been done by a human or mechanical systems.
I'm ready for a car that drives itself. I'm ready for that to be real and work and not kill people. And like, I'm all in on that. I'm not saying I want to get in one right now. In the future that I want to have, I don't want to have to drive myself. I want to sit there and do whatever in the car and have the car drive me where I want to go.
I don't want to drive, and I also don't want all the other people to drive. I'd rather have predictable
Yeah.
machines
Perfect
on the road
one
with me, so I don't have to worry about the person who's, looking at their phone.
I would like to drive. I would like to drive right now.
Today.
But I can't drive right now. And it's really making my household very angry
We love you,
because I have to
Nicole.
get rides everywhere. And it's terrible. I would really like to drive. Just saying.
Mark would really like to drive.
I would.
But do you want to?
Yes, I do. Right now, I really want to drive. Now, 6 months after I can drive again, please give me the autopilot car and let it drive me an hour back and forth to work. But yes, I do really want to drive right now because I can't. I really would like to.
You're
But-
a psychology experiment right now.
Yeah.
Well, sorry to birdwalk a tiny bit, but this is like being back in COVID for me, being stuck at home, except nobody else is stuck at home. And that's really different.
Yeah.
It's not fun. But anyway, I didn't mean to make it about my tumor again. Sorry.
Bringing us in, taking us out.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right. There was something, I remember what it is. We sort of soft launched the logo and theme in our last episode. So if you haven't seen it yet, you haven't heard yet, Believe It is the theme. And if you go to the ACPENW.org website, you will see the logo there. So all of that being said, you should start thinking about what you might like to wear to the conference or what you might like to do at the conference, or I don't know, encourage your favorite sponsors who are going to be at the conference to get swag, because I've been
Or-
doing that already.
What you might like to present and share at the conference, because the call for presentations is open, I think, until January
30th.
30th.
Just
Thank
gotta
you,
say.
Leanne.
Thanks for making this the more important
And
things,
I'm like,
Rachel.
what should
Like,
we do?
Do or maybe submit a session. Not that you just should gloss over telling the vendors what to get for swag.
And make
But
sure
it's
to
all about
blast
swag.
those. And the swag is always good. And blast those scholarship
Yes.
Yes.
applications out to your schools, because
Please share.
it's one of the joys, and it's one little drop in a bucket of very expensive college education. And we're always excited to give that money away.
Definitely. Definitely. And there'll be a shark meetup at ACPE.
I'm trying to think, is there a
gonna
soccer
say-
/ football team that are the Sharks?
Oh no, I thought you started to say furries, and I was like, what?
Yes.
I was not going to go there. Okay, so we're not talking about Mark and furries. Leanne, Kevin, thank you. And Colleen, who's been backstage watching and hopefully heckling Mark over text message the whole time. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us and being here on Plugged In.
Yes, I can't wait for this year's conference. It's gonna be awesome.
It's going to be so fun. So
Okay.
every year.
All right. With that, I think we're going to unplug from our podcast.
Bye.